Welcome to Mythos AI, your source for Cliff's Notes on complex subjects. Join Anna and Phil for yet another engaging conversation.
Today we're doing a deep dive into the life and work of Bill Gates.
Bill Gates.
Yeah.
He's someone I think most people know as the co-founder of Microsoft, but
Right.
his impact goes way beyond the computer screen.
Yeah, it really does.
So we're going to trace his journey
Okay.
from, a young coding enthusiast to a tech titan to global philanthropist
Okay.
and unpack some of the complexities and controversies that shape his remarkable story.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right, so, it's fascinating how Gates's early passions really foreshadowed his future success. His interest in technology was ignited in the 1960s,
Wow.
when computers were these massive, expensive machines largely confined to universities and research labs.
Yeah, it was a very different time for
But,
computing back then.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
This was an era when computing was in its absolute infancy.
Right.
Yet Gates, even as a teenager, saw the potential of software and coding.
Yeah, he wrote his first computer program at 13
13, can you imagine?
while attending Lakeside School, a private institution in Seattle.
And this wasn't just any program. It wasn't like a Hello World program.
All right.
He created a tic-tac-toe game
Wow.
that could be played against the computer.
At 13.
At 13, that's incredible.
Yeah, it showed an early aptitude for understanding complex systems.
Yeah,
And a desire to create something engaging
right.
with technology.
It's like he was playing around, but really he was also learning.
Absolutely. He was laying the foundation
Yeah.
for something much bigger, and it was at Lakeside that he met Paul Allen, his future business partner.
Right. They were totally immersed in this world together.
Oh, yeah. They shared this deep fascination for computers, spending countless hours in the school's computer lab.
Mm-hmm.
They even got banned at one point.
Really?
Yeah, for exploiting a bug to gain free computer time.
That's kind of amazing.
That's a little bit of foreshadowing right there.
It is. A
Yeah.
little mischievous, but also brilliant.
Yeah, but, they were pushing the boundaries.
From a very young age.
Yeah, and their collaboration went beyond just this kind of casual tinkering.
Oh, absolutely. They developed a program to create class schedules.
Oh, wow.
And they even started a venture called Trafo Data
Crafo data.
to analyze traffic patterns using data from roadway sensors.
Wow, that's very practical.
It was very practical, and while Trafo Data didn't achieve commercial success, it demonstrated their early entrepreneurial spirit
Yeah.
and their ability to apply their coding skills to real-world problems.
So it's interesting with Gates, these early experiences.
Yeah.
They weren't just about, learning to code. They were learning to think differently,
Exactly.
to see problems as opportunities.
And this mindset was absolutely critical when, in 1975,
Okay.
they encountered the Altair 8800,
The Altair 8.
one of the first personal computers available to the public.
And this was very new at the time, the idea of a personal computer.
Brand new. And while many saw it as a novelty, a curiosity, Gates and Allen, they recognized its potential to democratize computing.
And that's such a key difference
Yeah.
between them and other people at the time.
Visionaries, they could see where things were going
Yeah.
before anybody else.
And they understood that for personal computers to become ubiquitous,
Right.
they needed software.
They needed a way for people to easily interact with
Right.
and instruct these machines.
Right, because most people wouldn't know where to start with that.
Exactly. The average person couldn't be expected to know the ins and outs of computer programming.
So Gates and Allen, they contacted the manufacturer of the Altair.
MIs.
MLItes claiming to have developed a basic interpreter for the machine.
Okay.
But here's the thing.
Okay.
They hadn't actually written a single line of code for the Altair,
Wait.
which used a completely different processor architecture than what they were used to.
Wow.
Talk about a bold move.
That's quite a gamble.
It is.
Yeah.
They essentially secured this deal based on their conviction
Right.
and their potential, and then they scrambled to develop the software, working tirelessly for weeks.
And they pulled it off.
They did.
The basic interpreter worked.
You did.
And more importantly, it made programming the Altair significantly easier.
Right.
And this success was the foundation of Microsoft, which they officially founded that same year.
It's amazing to think that what began as this gamble
Yeah.
on a relatively unknown machine
Right.
would lay the groundwork for a company that would basically go on to define the personal computer era.
It's remarkable. And their initial success with BASIC led them to develop MS-DOS, which stands for Microsoft Disk Operating System.
Okay.
And it provided a text-based interface for interacting with the computer loading programs and managing files.
Now, this may not sound revolutionary today.
Right.
But back then, this was a significant step towards making computers more user-friendly.
Absolutely, because before that, it was really the Wild West of computer interaction, and their timing was impeccable. Because IBM, a giant in the computing world at the time, was looking for an operating system for their new line of personal computers. And they struck a deal with Microsoft. To license MS-DOS.
Wow.
A pivotal decision that would catapult Microsoft to the forefront of this burgeoning PC industry.
This partnership was monumental.
Huge.
Because every IBM PC sold with MS-DOS meant revenue for Microsoft.
Right.
And as IBM PCs gained popularity, so did Microsoft.
It was a symbiotic relationship.
It was.
Yeah.
But Gates wasn't content with just providing the operating system.
No, he wanted more.
He envisioned a future where computers were even more accessible, more intuitive.
Easier to use.
This vision led to the development of Windows.
Windows.
So before Windows interacting with a computer meant typing in commands, which was a barrier for a lot of people.
A huge barrier.
Gates wanted to change that.
He wanted to open up computing to everyone.
Yeah.
And Windows, first released in 1985, introduced the graphical user interface.
Or GUI.
Or GUI. Instead of typing commands, users could interact with graphical elements like icons in Windows using a mouse.
Again, this seems so fundamental now.
I know, it's hard to imagine.
But at the time, it was groundbreaking.
It was revolutionary.
It was.
It completely transformed how people interacted with computers. The complexity of command line interfaces was replaced by the intuitive nature of the GUI.
Right.
You could open programs, manage files, and navigate the system with visual cues.
Right.
And a point-and-click approach.
So this shift towards user-friendliness was a key factor in the widespread adoption of personal computers.
Oh, absolutely. It made it possible for the average person to use a computer
Yeah.
without needing specialized knowledge or training.
Windows made computing accessible to a much broader audience.
It democratized technology.
Yes, it did. And the release of Windows 95 in 1995 solidified this.
Windows 95, what a phenomenon.
It was a cultural phenomenon.
It was.
With millions of copies sold worldwide.
Lines around the block.
Yeah.
To get
Yeah. Windows 95 wasn't just an operating system.
Right.
It became synonymous with the personal computer experience for a generation.
It defined an era.
It really did.
And the success of Windows 95 cemented Microsoft's position as the dominant force in the PC market.
But this rapid ascent wasn't without its challenges.
No. As Microsoft's influence grew, so did concerns about its market power. This tension came to a head in the late 1990s with the antitrust trials.
Right.
A pivotal chapter in Microsoft's history and Gates' own narrative.
Right. And we'll get into that right after this break.
So by the late 1990s, Microsoft's Windows operating system ran on over 90% of the world's personal computers.
It was everywhere.
It was ubiquitous, and this dominance attracted the attention of antitrust regulators.
Makes sense.
Who were concerned about Microsoft's business practices.
Right. And so the U.S. Department of Justice filed a lawsuit against Microsoft in 1998.
In 1998, okay.
Alleging that the company had used its market power to stifle competition.
Okay.
Particularly in the burgeoning internet browser market.
Right, because at that time you had Netscape.
Netscape was the big player.
The dominant browser.
Right.
And at the heart of the case was Microsoft's integration of its Internet Explorer browser.
Right.
With the Windows operating system.
So they were seen as trying to control that whole space.
Exactly. They were bundling them together. And the government argued that this gave Microsoft an unfair advantage over competing browsers like Netscape Navigator.
Because if you're getting Windows, you're getting Internet Explorer.
It came pre-installed right on your computer. And back then, people didn't necessarily think to download a separate browser. They just used what was there.
So Microsoft countered that it was simply innovating.
Right.
And providing consumers with a more integrated computing experience.
Right, because you could argue that it was more seamless if it was all together.
Right. It wasn't like a separate thing you had to think about.
And the trial was a major media event.
Oh, I'm sure it was.
With Gates himself testifying for several days.
Wow, and what was his argument?
He argued that Microsoft was still subject to competition from companies like Apple.
Okay.
And that consumers benefited from the integration of Windows and Internet Explorer.
So they were saying, we're not hurting anybody, we're actually making it better for the consumer.
Exactly. But the judge in the case ultimately ruled that Microsoft had violated antitrust laws.
Really?
Yes, by maintaining a monopoly in the PC operating system market and using its dominance to stifle competition in the web browser market.
So they did find against them.
They did.
So what happened then?
The court ordered Microsoft to be broken up into two separate companies.
Wow.
One focused on operating systems and the other on software applications.
So that would have been a huge deal.
That would have been seismic.
Yeah.
However, this ruling was later overturned on appeal.
Okay.
So Microsoft avoided a forced breakup.
Okay.
But the antitrust case had a lasting impact on the company and on Gates's public image.
Right, because even if they didn't get broken up,
The perception.
it definitely tarnished their reputation a little bit.
Exactly. It led to increased scrutiny of Microsoft's business practices and a greater awareness of antitrust issues in the technology industry.
Right. This was a landmark case in that sense.
It really set a precedent.
It did for how tech companies would be viewed and scrutinized moving forward.
And for Gates personally, the experience seemed to reinforce a growing desire to focus on endeavors beyond Microsoft.
So maybe this was a turning point for him in a way.
It could be seen as a catalyst.
Yeah. So in 2000, he stepped down as CEO of Microsoft,
Wow, big move.
though he remained chairman and continued to be involved in the company's product development.
Right, he didn't completely cut ties.
But this marked a turning point.
A new chapter.
Yeah. He began dedicating more time and resources to philanthropy,
Interesting.
a path that would really come to define his post-Microsoft career.
So talk about that a little bit.
So he and Melinda French Gates, whom he had married in 1994, they established the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation in 2000,
Okay.
merging their previous philanthropic efforts into a single entity.
So they were already doing some philanthropy, but they decided to go big.
They went really big, and the foundation quickly became one of the largest private charitable organizations in the world,
Wow.
with a focus on global health education and poverty reduction.
So tackling some of the world's most pressing issues.
Huge issues.
And Gates brought his analytical and data-driven approach to philanthropy.
Interesting. So he's applying his kind of business sense
Problem-solving skills.
to these social issues.
Exactly. He was aiming to make a tangible impact on some of the world's most pressing problems.
And one of the foundation's first major initiatives was tackling global health issues,
Okay, like what?
particularly infectious diseases like HIV/AIDS, malaria, and tuberculosis.
Those are big ones.
They invested heavily in vaccine development and distribution,
Okay.
working with partners around the world to improve healthcare infrastructure and access to essential medicines.
So it was a very comprehensive approach.
They weren't just throwing money at the problem. They were really trying to understand it and address it from multiple angles.
And what kind of impact have they had?
Their efforts have had a profound impact. The Gates Foundation played a key role in the near eradication of polio.
Wow, that's amazing.
It is and has contributed significantly to reducing deaths from preventable diseases like measles and diarrhea.
So they've saved countless lives.
They really have. And beyond global health, the foundation has also made significant contributions to education.
Okay, in what ways?
Particularly in the United States, they've focused on improving high school graduation rates,
Okay.
increasing college readiness, and promoting innovation in teaching and learning.
So trying to create systemic change.
Yeah, not just Band-Aid solutions.
And what about poverty reduction? What are they doing in that area?
Their work in poverty reduction has centered on expanding economic opportunities.
Okay.
Particularly in developing countries, they've supported microfinance initiatives, agricultural development programs, and access to financial services for the poor.
So giving people the tools and resources they need to lift themselves out of poverty.
Exactly. It's about empowerment, not just handouts.
But I imagine Gates's philanthropy hasn't been without its critics.
Well, you're right about that. Some argue that his approach is too top-down.
What do you mean by that?
Well, they say it relies too heavily on technical solutions and not enough on community-driven approaches.
Okay, I can see that perspective.
Right. And others question the influence of a single, incredibly wealthy foundation
Right.
on global health and development policies.
So there's concern about accountability and transparency.
To a certain extent, yes. But despite these criticisms, there's no doubt that the Gates Foundation has made a significant and positive impact on the lives of millions of people around the world.
That's undeniable.
It is, and Gates' shift from software titan to global philanthropist has been remarkable.
It really has.
He has emerged as a vocal advocate for addressing global challenges, using his platform and resources to bring attention to issues like climate change, poverty, and inequality.
So he's using his influence for good.
He's trying to, and as technology continues to advance at an unprecedented rate, He's also become a leading voice on the ethical considerations surrounding artificial intelligence.
Right, because AI has the potential to be incredibly beneficial, but also potentially dangerous if not developed and used responsibly.
Exactly. And that's what he's urging caution and careful consideration about.
So he's not afraid to tackle these complex and sometimes controversial issues.
No, he's not. He's willing to ask the tough questions, even if it means challenging the status quo.
And that's what makes him such a fascinating figure. He's constantly evolving and adapting his thinking.
It's interesting how Gates' views on technology have evolved alongside his career.
Yeah, it's like he's gone full circle.
In a way.
From revolutionizing personal computing to now grappling with the implications of artificial intelligence.
Right.
A technology with the potential to really reshape society in profound ways.
Absolutely. And in recent years, he's become a lot more vocal about the need to ensure that AI is developed and deployed responsibly.
Yeah, he's really emphasizing the potential risks.
He is like job displacement and the use of AI for malicious purposes.
Right, exactly. He's not shying away from the dark side of it.
No, and he's argued that we need to be proactive in establishing ethical guidelines
Right.
and regulatory frameworks for AI.
Instead of just waiting for problems to happen and then trying to react.
Exactly. Like, we need to get ahead of this.
Yeah.
And I think his thinking on AI reflects a broader shift in his perspective on technology in general.
How so?
Well, he's gone from seeing it primarily as a tool for innovation and economic growth to recognizing its potential to exacerbate existing inequalities.
Right.
And create entirely new challenges.
And he's in a unique position to see those challenges because he's been at the forefront of technology for so long.
Exactly. He understands the capabilities, but also the limitations.
Yeah.
And he's not afraid to ask difficult questions about the potential consequences of all this progress.
Right. He's challenging that assumption that all technological advancement is inherently beneficial.
Which is important because not everyone's asking those questions.
No, they're not. And this nuanced perspective has made him a valuable voice in the global conversation about the role of technology in society.
He's urging policymakers, business leaders, and really just the public in general
Right.
to engage in thoughtful and informed discussions about the ethical implications of AI and other emerging technologies.
So it's not just about the technology itself.
Right.
It's about how we use it.
Exactly. And he stressed the importance of making sure that the benefits of AI are shared widely.
Of course not. Just concentrated in the hands of a few.
Right, particularly among those who are most at risk of being left behind.
The digital divide is a real concern.
It is, and Gates is trying to bridge that divide in a lot of ways.
Yeah, he's putting his money where his mouth is.
He is, and his transition from, this tech entrepreneur to global philanthropist.
Pretty remarkable.
It's marked by a real willingness to grapple with complex issues and use his platform to advocate for solutions.
And he's not afraid to ruffle some feathers along the way.
He's not afraid to challenge conventional thinking, embrace new ideas, and he's demonstrated a real commitment to making a tangible difference in the world.
You can't argue with that.
No, you can't. And I think when we look back on Bill Gates' life and work, it's a complex and multifaceted legacy.
Yeah, he's not easily categorized.
No.
He's been lauded for his achievements and criticized for his actions.
Right. He's a very polarizing figure in some ways.
He is, but there's no denying his impact.
No, there's not. He's been a relentless innovator, a shrewd businessman, a generous philanthropist.
And a thought leader on some of the most pressing issues of our time.
He really has shaped the world we live in.
In countless ways.
And his story, I think, is a good reminder that progress is rarely linear. That success often comes with unintended consequences.
Right, there are always trade-offs.
And even the most brilliant minds have to constantly adapt and evolve.
To meet the challenges of a changing world.
And I think perhaps the most enduring aspect of Gates' legacy will be his belief in the power of human ingenuity.
His optimism is kind of infectious.
It is. He really does believe that we can solve these problems and improve lives through technology, through innovation, through collaboration.
And through generosity.
Through generosity, absolutely. And whether it's developing groundbreaking software, tackling global health crises, or advocating for responsible AI development,
Right.
Bill Gates has left an indelible mark on the world.
He's one for the history books, that's for sure.
He is. And I think his journey prompts us to consider how we might use our own talents and resources to shape a better future.
It's a good reminder for all of us.
It is. Thanks for taking this deep dive with me.
It was my pleasure.
Thanks for listening to Mythos AI. Stay tuned for more concise insights. And remember to hit the like button and subscribe for future episodes.